Welcome to this React Data Grid component tutorial. In this video, I will show you how to enable filtering, handle diacritic characters, use different filtering types and operators, and add a custom component for filtering in the Syncfusion React Data Grid. First, I'll open my existing React application, where I have already added the basic code to render the Data Grid component. If you want to learn how to get started with the React Data Grid, check out the video linked in the card and description. I run the application using the npm rundev command. As you can see, the React Data Grid component renders. To enable filtering, I import the filter module from the Syncfusion EJ2 React Grids package and inject it using the inject directive. Then, I enable the allow filtering property. Now the default filter bar appears in the data grid, and you can filter column values directly from the header. You can see that some customer IDs contain diacritic characters. So even though the text looks similar, matching rows will not appear in the results. To fix this, I enable the ignoreAccent property. I create a constant called filterOptions. Set ignoreAccent to true, and assign this constant to the grid's filter settings property. Now, filtering works correctly even with diacritic characters. You can also apply filter conditions during the initial load using filter operators. Here is the list of built-in operators supported by the data grid. The operators starts with, ends with, and contains can be applied to grid columns of type string. The operators equal and not equal can be applied to columns of type string, number, boolean, and date. The operators greater than or equal to, less than, and less than or equal to can be applied to columns of type number and date. In this example, I will filter the grid using the startsWith operator. Inside the filter options constant, I add the columns property, which accepts an array of filter rules. I specify the field as customer ID, the operator as startsWith, and the value as j. Now the grid loads with only the customer IDs that start with j. Next, I will show the different types of filtering available in the data grid component. By default, the filter bar is displayed in the data grid. The data grid also supports additional filter types: menu, checkbox, and Excel. Let's look at them. In the filter options, I set the type to menu. For clarity, I remove the default filter condition. Now the filtering changes to the menu type. Based on the type of column, the filter options will be populated automatically in the menu. Now I change the type to checkbox. You can filter records by just clicking the checkboxes. I change it to Excel. Now you have Excel-like filter options. You can filter records using checkboxes and apply operators with specific conditions. You can also apply different filter types for different columns by using the column directive. Here all the columns are using Excel-type filtering. If I want to use a checkbox filter for a freight column, I set the filter property in that column directive and set the type as checkbox. Now you can see that the checkbox filter in that column, and Excel-like filters in all the other columns. Next, I will show you how to add a custom component to the default filter bar. Syncfusion allows users to replace the default text box filter with any custom UI using the filter template property. I'll remove the filter settings to enable the default inline filter bar. In this example, I'm going to add a drop-down list to the ship country column to easily select a country instead of typing it manually. To use the drop-down component, I first install the Syncfusion EJ2 React Dropdowns package. And then import the drop-down list component from it. Next, I create a function named filter template. Inside this function, I return a drop-down list component. To populate the drop-down with all the available country names, I import the DataUtil class from Syncfusion EJ2 Data. Inside the filter template function, I define a constant countries and use the distinct method to extract all unique values from the ship country field in the grid's data source. Then set this constant as the data source of the drop-down list component so that the drop-down displays all available countries. Next, I create an onChange function, which runs whenever the user selects a country from the drop-down. Here, I will use a built-in function to filter the column. To access the built-in function, I first declare a grid variable and use the ref property to store the grid component instance. Using this grid instance, I call the built-in filter by column method. This method applies a filter to the ship country column based on the value selected from the drop-down. Next, I assign the function to the drop-down's change event, so it will be triggered automatically whenever the selection changes. Then, I set the filter template function to the filter template property of the ship country column to display the drop-down inside the column's filter area. Now, when I select a value from the drop-down, the grid updates immediately and displays only the records that match the chosen ship country. Let's wrap up this video. In this video, I showed how to enable filtering, filter diacritic characters, different filter operators, and filter types in the Syncfusion React Data Grid. I also demonstrated how to use a custom component for filtering. If you want to try out the example used in this video, download it from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also shared a link to learn how to obtain a free license key to use our React components through our community license if you are eligible. Thanks for watching this video. If you find this video helpful, like and subscribe to our channel.